WCBI News at 6 starts now.
Good evening, everyone. A former area police officer allegedly hit and killed a child while driving drunk and injured several others Thursday. Now he's facing several felony charges in the state of Florida.
Yeah, our Tommy Lopez has been following this story. He joins us live in the studio with more. Tommy?
48-year-old John Camfield allegedly hit 5 children who were on a sidewalk. They had just gotten off a school bus. He's in jail tonight after appearing in court in Polk County, Florida today. One of the children, 13-year-old Jaheen Robertson, died of his injuries today. Another 13-year-old is in the hospital with life-threatening injuries.
I'm at a loss for words this morning. This is truly tragic for us.
Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd says the children's injuries include spinal injuries, facial fractures, and head trauma. And evidence suggests he did not try to brake before or during these collisions.
Drove off of the road and ran through these children and scattered them like a bowling ball through bowling pins.
Deputies say he drove away in his car. They arrested him a short time later when he crashed into another car, injuring a pregnant woman. An off-duty deputy got a call from his daughter, who saw it happen. He ran to the scene.
I assumed the worst. I got out of my bed and I ran towards my daughter, not knowing what was going on.
They say it was obvious he was drunk, and he didn't even know he had hit the children. Another person saw it happen.
No, he didn't have no idea. He was screaming, yelling, and stuff.
The sheriff says Camfield has been with 10 different Mississippi agencies over 18 years.
I talked to one of the sheriffs that he worked for, and the sheriff said, I've been in law enforcement a long time, and he was one of the very best detectives we ever had. But he had a problem. Alcohol, the bottle.
Camfield is facing 10 total counts right now. The spokesperson says that they'll likely upgrade them after the death of that 13-year-old. Deputies say his BAC was double the legal limit 7 hours after those collisions. Live in the studio, Tommy Lopez, WCBI News.
All right, thanks, Tommy. The body of a woman found in Lee County earlier this month is identified. Now 22-year-old David Fisher III is charged with murder in connection with the discovery of the skeletal remains found on County Road 2350 near the Lee, Prentiss, and Etowah County lines. Lee County Coroner Carolyn Green says forensics and DNA has confirmed the victim is 38-year-old Linda Diane Pope Reed of Lee County. An exact cause of death hasn't been released. Sheriff Jim Johnson says state and Etowah County investigators helped piece together the case against Fisher and helped identify Reed.
They were in a relationship style relationship. From that point, we know that this is the reason that they were both in the same company. And the investigation will reveal through the grand jury of how this death occurred.
Investigators are still working on a timeline to pinpoint when Reed's body was placed in the shallow grave, but believe it was about 6 to 8 weeks ago. The victim did not have close family relationships, and that is likely why a missing persons report was never filed. The Knoxville County Sheriff's Department, along with U.S. Marshals, were out early this morning looking for registered sex offenders. They were trying to find people who had not updated their information.
That's right. Our Quentin Smith rode along with them this morning. He's in the studio now with more on what happened this morning. Quentin.
Aundrea, nearly 30 registered sex offenders woke up to an unexpected knock on the door from law enforcement today. The agencies traveled to Shuqualak, Macon, and Brooksville. Sheriff Terry Grassery says it's important for law enforcement to know where sex offenders are living at all times.
We just try to keep Knoxville County safe.
Knoxville County Sheriff's deputies split up into teams, loaded up in their vehicles, and hit the road early Friday morning.
We started approximately 8 o'clock this morning.
They drove across the county, knocking on doors, making sure registered sex offenders are living at their correct address.
We had approximately 20, 30 that we were serving. Approximately about 4 or 5 just probably wasn't in place.
for some reason or the other. Now we're trying to track them down to see what the issue was.
Noxubee County Sheriff Terry Grassery says the roundup was successful, even if no arrests were made.
We all came back safe. Everybody we went to check with, we checked with them safe, whether they was at home or not. Those that was very polite, and we ended up handling business like business supposed to be done.
Sex offenders are required to check in with the Department of Safety every 3 months to verify and update their residency. However, many sex offenders move without going back to update their information.
By law, if you give that address, that's the place you gotta be staying. And if you're not staying there, then you shall be, the law really shall go to jail. And we're gonna have to do a warrant for failure to register.
These address checks are done every so often to make sure the location is correct.
If you get a crime, if you get especially a sexual crime or where a child is missing, you just really want to know where everybody's at, because you have to eliminate everybody by checking.
Grassery has this message for registered sex offenders.
If they are a sex offender, stay where you're supposed to be. And the law tells you, check. If you think you're going to leave, let Highway Patrol go. No, check.
Now, Sheriff Grassery says if a sex offender fails to register, they can spend up to 5 years in prison.
Otherwise, right now it is a warm and windy afternoon here as we close out the work week in Columbus. A mix of sun and clouds. You can see how warm we are right now as of the top of the hour. 86, sustained wind at 17, gusting over 25 miles per hour. So it's warm everywhere here, mid and upper 80s still right now, and it's going to be a slow descent down into the mid 70s by 11. Your weekend forecast in just a few minutes.
All right, Keith, thanks a lot. 3 years ago, a deadly EF4 tornado ravaged Winston County. Homes and businesses were destroyed. So was the Winston Medical Center.
Many workers were there when the twister hit. They were also there today at a ribbon-cutting ceremony at the new facility. WCBI Selena Schaefer was there. She joins us live in the studio with more. Selena?
In this morning's ceremony, they wanted to stress that they would never forget what happened, but they don't want to dwell on it either.
I've got up and cried twice already this morning.
For many, it was an emotional day.
You know, it's like having your heart ripped out. This is part of my family, this WMC, all the staff, and it was heart-wrenching.
For staff like Lacey Val, they remember April 28th, 2014, starting just like any other.
Start of the day, it was a beautiful day. Beautiful sun shining, and then all of a sudden about 4 o'clock, it started turning bad. We knew the tornado was coming. We'd been getting warnings about that for a couple of days, so we were prepared.
But nothing could have prepared them for what was ahead.
It happens, we know tornadoes happen, but that old adage, it never happens here.
But it did, and it destroyed everything in its path. Like Val and Black, many of the hospital staff had families of their own to worry about.
I have 2 children that were actually in the line of the storm as well. It's hard. You want to be a mama, you want to be with them, but I also had these people, the residents and the staff, that were my responsibility to take care of. So I had to trust that the people my children were with were going to keep them safe so I could do my duty here.
I wasn't really worried about my personal stuff on that day. I was worried about more my responsibility and what I needed to do.
And that's exactly what they did.
Stayed focused, just stayed centered. We knew we had 114 people we had to take care of, and that's what we focused on, and their safety was our main priority, and that's what kept me calm.
3 years later, and the hospital is finally opening its doors.
For those of us on that day, we can look back and see those pictures of that tornado coming across and know exactly where we were when that tornado hit, and then to look exactly where we are today, our hearts swell with pride.
And Black is wearing the same tie he wore the day destruction struck.
Putting the tornado behind us, the community putting that behind us. I mean, we don't want to be always defined by that tornado. We want to be defined by how we reacted to it. And the thought just kind of came to me to try and use this tie to try and symbolize doing that.
Today was an open house walking tour open to the public, and the hospital officially opens on Monday.
All right, Selena, thanks so much. Certainly a day none of us will ever forget.
No doubt.
Coming up, Lowndes County residents teaming up to give cancer the boot.
We head out to this year's Relay for Life when we come back.
All right, we're back, everybody. Dozens of teams are converging on the Columbus Soccerplex this evening, complex that is, and they have all one opponent, cancer.
The Lowndes County Relay for Life is underway. WCBI's Victoria Bailey joins us live with a preview. Victoria?
City of Columbus Public Works. That's right, Aundrea. The opening ceremony is well underway, and there is a lot of excitement out here. Relay for Life is an event that Columbus residents have been looking forward to all year long. Volunteers from businesses, companies, organizations have been out here since 12 o'clock today, setting up and preparing to ensure that this year's event goes off without a hitch. Now, throughout the year, community teams work to raise money and prepare the actual event.
I run into people all the time that I didn't even know had cancer, that I didn't know survived from cancer, and I would have never thought that. So it can happen to anybody, and I think it really raises awareness with people who, you're coming out here for fun, you're coming out here to eat, the kids are coming out to get their face painted, but you don't realize how many people it affects as a community until you see all of the people out here together.
Every year. Now, Relay for Life is going on until 12 o'clock tonight, so there's still plenty of time to get out here and partake in the fun. Reporting live in Columbus, I'm Victoria Bailey for WCBI News.
Great weather for that event tonight, warm and windy. We stay warm and windy tomorrow on Saturday, around 91. Heavy rain and storms Sunday. More on that severe weather threat after the break.
Your first alert weather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Keith Gibson.
Some fast-moving clouds today in Tupelo and really everywhere else. That's our Alpha Insurance time lapse. Warm and windy today. Look at some of those trees moving around. We've had gusts over 30 miles per hour. Sweeping around with our live operator. No rain out there. No worries for this evening. Get out there and make the most of it. Showers and thunder showers trying to develop north of Jackson, Tennessee. Those are going to be heading back to the north. And the big-time storms up there north of this warm front that moved through this morning up towards Indianapolis. So now we are just ensconced in this warm and humid air. Currently 86 in Tupelo and Columbus and Meridian, 85 in Jackson, 86 in Birmingham and Tuscaloosa too. Wind gusts between 25 and 30 miles per hour. We're going to lose a lot of those gusts this evening and tonight, but those southerly breezes will continue between 10 and 20 miles per hour. Look at this low, just around 70. A very warm night. And here's our planner for tomorrow. We start out at 9 o'clock, 76 degrees. By 1 o'clock, 87, a mix of sun and clouds. Windy as well, much like today. We may see some wind gusts between 30 and 40 miles per hour. Our forecast high around 90 or 91 degrees in many spots. Some of you could fall short of that and get to about 88 or 89, but suffice to say, it is going to be a warm Saturday. But we are dry tomorrow. Storms return Sunday, and there is that severe weather risk area for all of our viewing area. Let's talk about Sunday. We have a line of storms that will be moving across our area very slowly. We have about a 12-hour window from about late morning through the evening hours, about 12 hours here. We may squeeze out 1 to 4 inches of rain with locally higher amounts that could cause some flooding. Now, at this point, it doesn't look like a tornado outbreak. That's certainly good news. However, we can't discount some damaging wind, perhaps some hail, and also the risk for some embedded tornadoes with this line of storms as it moves on through. So we're not all going to see severe weather here, but there's a chance for some severe weather on Sunday. Now, tomorrow, your Saturday, look at this, warm, windy, and dry around here. Can't rule out maybe a late-day shower or storm trying to creep on in from the west, but basically dry for our area. The front comes on into the picture late morning Sunday, crosses our area all afternoon and evening long, and then it's out of here, and we're looking pretty good as we start next week. So Here's our 7-day. Warm and windy tomorrow, low 80 Sunday, a threat for storms, quiet Monday and Tuesday, more storms on Wednesday, and then some cool and showery stuff by the end of next week. There's your 7-day, more after the break.
WCBI Sports with Robbie Donahoe is brought to you by your local Ford dealers. Go further.
The talk leading up to the first round of the 2017 NFL Draft in Philadelphia was Ole Miss tight end Evan Ingram beginning to make a push into the first 32 picks. Now, Pittsburgh was that rumored landing spot at 30, but a certain team with an Ole Miss Rebel at quarterback just couldn't hold off on the talent and skills that Eazy-E brings to the table. And in his hometown of Powder Springs, Georgia, Evan Ingram celebrated the moment, as you see right here, with plenty of friends and family, as he was selected by the New York Giants. His sister Mackenzie Ingram was also on stage, and she was in that area. She's a Georgia basketball player, by the way. Ingram spoke with Eli Manning on multiple occasions about the possibility of joining the Giants, and last night the dream became a reality. Members of the New York Giants organization are eager to get their matchup nightmare on the field for 2017.
We feel like he's a weapon in the offense. We think this guy can be a weapon, and you can use him. He's versatile. You can use him in a lot of different ways, and my coaches are extremely excited about getting a guy like this in our offense.
The fastest way to the end zone is down the middle of the field, and anytime you can add someone to your offense that can run down the middle of the field with that type of speed and length, it stresses the defense.
Let's run through the notable first-round selections one more time. Myles Garrett was your #1 overall selection. Bears went up to get Mitchell Trubisky. Jacksonville got Leonard Fournette. Titans first went with Corey Davis, receiver from Western Michigan. Jets went with safety Jamal Adams of LSU. Saints' first pick was Marshawn Lattimore, DB out of Ohio State. Then a run of Alabama guys, Marlon Humphrey, Jonathan Allen, and O.J. Howard. And then the backside of the first round, you know about Ingram. Bills went with Tre'Davious White. Dallas needed a rush in, so they go for Taco Charlton. I expect mini Taco Wednesday promotions with the Dallas Cowboys going into next year. And then Reuben Foster finally heard his name. 49ers go back into the first round to grab him, and the Saints ended up their first round with Ryan Ramczyk, offensive lineman from Wisconsin. To the Diamond, Ole Miss starting a doubleheader today at noon. They were taking on Arkansas. They took game 1 last night, and then game 2 started off on the right foot. Nick Forte is going down the left field line. It's a fair ball. That would score Will Golson and Colby Bortles. Rebels would lead 4-0 after 1, and that's really all the run support that Ryan Rollison would need, but he would get nicked up a little bit here in the 5th as Grant Cook is going to hit his 10th home run of the season. But Ole Miss would have a 4-1 lead after 5, and really they had been cruising just about this entire series. Even when Rollison was in trouble in the 6th, I should say, he got back-to-back strikeouts to end the threat. And then to top it off for Ole Miss, New Hope's Will Golson would extend his hit streak to 8 games with this single back up the box. Rebels would take game 2 and the series 4-1 as they're now 27-16 overall, 11-19 in the SEC. Now they're playing game 3 right now. They're tied at 4, just went into the 8th. We'll give you a recap coming up at 10 on WCBI. MSU about to throw out the first pitch against Auburn, 6:30 p.m. first pitch time. That game is online only tonight. They just moved their Sunday game to Saturday, so it will be a doubleheader Saturday starting at 2 p.m. between Mississippi State and Auburn. And one other basketball note, a longtime Pontotoc girls basketball coach Bill Russell has now taken over the job at South Pontotoc. He is a 1984 South Pontotoc graduate, and he is headed home to be the head coach of the Cougars, leading Pontotoc High School. That's it for sports. We have a last look at your forecast when we come back.
Warm and windy tomorrow, just like summer. Showers and storms return Sunday. Some could be strong to severe with very heavy rainfall. We'll keep you updated on that. And then some quiet stuff early next week before another system by Wednesday. So pretty active here.
Yeah.
But warm tomorrow. Get out there and make the most of your Saturday.
No quiet times in the weather office.
Not this time of year, no. Yeah. Always busy.
All righty.
All right. Thanks, Keith. Thank you for so much for joining us, everyone. Have a great weekend.